there, viewers, and welcome back to the Self-Made Auto Channel. Going old school, 2018 Cherokee, four-wheel brake job. Let's get after it. Pretty easy one. We're going to be doing fronts and backs. You do need to put the rear brakes in service mode. You have to have a scan tool to do that. There may be other methods. If there is, I'm unfamiliar with them. We're going to pull the front caliper off. I don't know what the deal is with the brakes. This was a customer request. Didn't ask. Pull the caliper in here a little bit. Take it off. See what things look like in here. Things look pretty good. Hang that up there. Pads are in really good shape. I just did the other side. Contrary to what some may think, we do not do one-wheel brake jobs. But same as this, you know, these pads are like brand new. So not sure what the dealio is. Like I say, that's what the customer wants. Customer's always right. Sounds like a tow truck running out there. And it is. It's a Wilbert's U-pull bath. They are picking up a PT Cruiser that was dropped off with a steering issue. AKA the front frame broke in half. She was smoked. Rustiest car I've seen in a while, and that says a lot. The good news is it had a brand new inspection sticker on it, just freshly inspected. The car literally broke in half. The front K-frame, the front subframe literally busted in half. But somebody else deemed it fit. That's the bolt that holds the rotor on. Takes an Allen of some sort here. Number 5 MMs. Rotors are in nice shape too. So it has a little nut up here that holds this bracket on for the cable, or for the hose, or for the hard pipe. Well, you know. If the whole bolt spins, you have to reach up in here with a 10 mil. Here's a guy can't use his words this morning. Wrench. I think they call him a wrench. So you can just move the hose out of the way enough to get up on there with a shardy. That's the double-headed donger. That's what you got there. 32 pound-feet of torque when you go to stick them back on. Whip that back around. That looks pretty good. Well, we're holding it right here. Like I say, you got to put these in service mode. These are not screw-in calipers. These are push-annies. You can leave the electric parking brake actuator plugged right in there if you don't want to fiddle with that. And again, the rear brakes are pretty good shape. Nothing that certainly would fail inspection, so Not real sure. Seized up a little, not terrible. Outside one here seized pretty good. But like I say, plenty of friction material. Probably could have just benefited from a brake service perhaps, but also I didn't drive it either. That could be a huge mistake. I just pulled her in and gave her the old rip and tear. And then I think we need a Torx bit there for the inside. We do, right here. 55. Pins aren't seized, so that's good. We got her on reverse. 89 foot-pounds on these. If I remember right, these ones don't feel like they were at 89. Now we'll have to get that cleaned up real nice. And then again, on the front, we'll go with the Allen. Zippy zap that out if it wants to cooperate. And it does. What a nice little bolt. Whoa. Nice little bolt that was. So kind of a special bolt. Very special. Like all my viewers. Very special. I'll find a whizzy wheel. Get this whizzy wheel. Close your eyes. There's the inside ring, then there's a gap, and then the outside ring. Yeah. Then we'll splash that one off. Oh, devil. Man, 2 for 1, huh? Woo! Pretty deep, baby. There's that. That's already pushed in. Make sure our pins are nice and juicy. Your ones aren't bad at all. We'll touch them up with a little silicone paste here. You don't have to go too overboard with this. So this one's missing the rubber. We want to make sure it's not lost down inside the bracket there. It doesn't really matter that it's gone, but we just want to make sure it's not going to get jammed up. We'll grab a little pick, do some fixing. I don't feel it anywheres in there. We would have snagged it. Must be whoever did the brake job last. Sometimes those rubbers get swollen. And you can either replace them or you can throw them in the trash. They're just for noise. Usually if somebody uses something other than silicone grease on the guide pins, it usually swells them right up. Try to wiggle it around, it releases the air. You don't want to get any air trapped behind them, so if you can kind of jiggle them, wiggle them on the way in, keep it from getting too much air trapped in there. Then we'll use the old silly Ramic. Almost out as usual. Of course, I've already sandblasted these off. You need to get all the rust and junk out of there. Whether you use a file, a sandblaster, something, grinder, you gotta get the rust out. Don't just use a wire wheel, because that seems to just polish it up. At least here in the Northeast, this is what we do. It's pretty common practice to grease under your clips with a really good grease, something that's going to hang on there for a long time, because this is where our pad seats up right here. Gives it what I call the big squeeze. If you have a lot of time on your hands, you can sandblast them, prime them, paint them, and then grease them for the ultimate in protection. Like I say, we're just trying to combat rust, and I find this method here works pretty well. It'll get you several years. Usually at that point, your brake rotors are pretty well rusty. In this area, the faces are flaking off them. Either that or they're warped like crazy because it's pretty hilly around here. But this will usually get you a couple years without having to go back and touch them up. If you're a DIYer and you can, and you service your own brakes, if you just do this like, every spring, then you can usually get some pretty long life out of your brakes. Sometimes it can be kind of prohibitive to pay a shop to do this. They're going to charge you the labor rate to pull brackets off and do everything, so it's kind of a tough sell. I'll do it if customers request, sure, but we got our abutment hardware here. That one's a little bit bent up there, so that's not going to go on. Straighten that out a little bit. And do we have it going the right way? Yes, we do. Okay, I had to think about that for half a second. And the reason that doesn't fit is because it's for the front. Okay, so we want to use the clips for the rear. It's Monday. Give me a break, folks. These are very specific in the direction they go on, okay? Not just the difference between front and back, but left and right. Because your little brake pads are going to hook. They're going to hook on these little hooks. So make sure they don't get bent out of the way. The brake pad's going to sit right on there. They're an anti-drag spring. You're such a drag, man. All right. We'll bang the fronts together. Okay, that fits a lot nicer on the front. And same thing on the front. They have these little anti-rattle springs here. Your pads are going to sit on top of that. All right. Easy peasy. Okay, let's get some new pads. So the rears can be a real pain in the rear. You've got to be able to slide the ears of the pad in and get it inside of that little hook. I mean, if they give you too much of a fit, just cut those little anti-drag clips off, throw them in the trash. But so that's how that goes in there. Now don't push them in too hard because you'll stretch that little spring right out. Like I say, your pad ears should move in there though very freely. You should be able to, I don't want to knock it out of there, but you should be able to move that ear in and out very freely, top and bottom. And then it's probably safe to say the squealer there, or your wear indicator, is supposed to go opposite the brake bleeder, according to service data. So that's how they've translated that. And I think we have that correct. Now your front caliper bracket goes on there, like so. These ones, the wear indicator, you have to clip on yourself, are going to go towards the top, because if they're at the bottom on the trailing edge, boop, they'd pop right off. Not that the pads ever wear out and actually make it that far. And then they have a little spring clip that goes on the bottom, so it's going to hold pressure on the pad. And these two can also be a pain in the hoo-ha to get in there. So we're going to line up the side with the wear indicator. We can slip that little guy in there. I think this piece of hardware might be bent a little bit. It was. There's that. Slide that little guy in. And you have to push that spring clip in. And then that'll sit in there just like so. Like I said, the wear indicator has to go nearest the brake bleeder. That's how they explain it in service there. It's either near the brake bleeder or away from the brake bleeder. Like I say, these ones are kind of common sense because, you know, if that wear indicator was down, like I say, it's just going to flick it off. Slip that in. Come on, don't. Well, you gotta be like that. There we go. So, like I said, you want to make sure they move nice and easy. Nice and easy. And then don't bother putting on the anti-drag springs here until we get the caliper bracket on. I just need to slam her back together. Stick our front bracket up on there. Grab your bolts. A little Loctite on the bolts wouldn't hurt. Wrong bolts. Okay, so stick the wrong bolt in there to hold it so you can get the right bolts. Wow. Good time to mention that if you're looking for car repair advice, don't look on YouTube. Get a service manual, buy some service data, do it the right way. That would be my advice. A lot of ding-dongs out here in YouTube land. Lots of them. Minor mix-up, not a big deal. We'll grab a 1/2 inch Uggy Duggy. We'll smack these things down so tight nobody will ever get them off. We had that on setting number 1, that is wuss bag mode. We'll fire up the wrench of torquing. We'll crank them down to $1.29. There's that. We're gonna grease up our metal to metal contact points here. Big glob there. Bigger the glob, better the job. That's what they say. So we're gonna lube them up in there, and then our piston faces. Even though they're not metal, it still doesn't hurt. I can't see a thing with that light in my eyes, but I'm assuming we're doing a nice job. Alright, looks pretty nice. A little trick me Ma taught me here. We're going to take one bolt. That's not hanging by the hose, for the record. Stick just your top bolt in. Just like that, leave that sticking up. Now grab your clips that are such a drag. Hold your pad. It's easier to start with the bottom. You have to do this one by feel. Ooh, look at that. Don't let them go, because they'll go flinging. If everything's right, they will. Okay, so hang on to those now that your clips are up in them holes. And just swing her down. Then you can let it go. Look at that, huh? Probably could have moved the camera, got better angles. You get what you pay for, though. And those are 30 something, I think. 32 probably. That's what we're gonna go with. There's that one. There's that one. Our squeakers are at the top. See, it's tiger tight. Everything moves. I'm happy, you're happy. We're all happy, people. The bolts you tried to use in the front that don't fit, you're gonna wanna use those back here. Stick our bracket up there, Loctite them. as mentioned. I was just testing you. Sometimes I test you guys a little bit. There's that. Let's grab the old screamer here. For our headphone users. There's that. We're going to come in at 89 pound-feet of torque, if I remember correctly. I think that's what I told you guys in the beginning, right? We're going to round it right up to 90 just to be on the safe side, get that extra pound. Got it. If you don't have a torque wrench, take them to the point that they are tight and will not fall off. Oh, it's very tight. You got to say that when you're done. We need some juice for this caliper. About that much. Swing that around. Same as the front. Metal to metal contact points. Keeps down the squealing. And then the piston face. Just like that. Okay, she's all juiced. Let's see here. We'll slip her in. You got to get it past that park and brake mechanism. We're going to get the single-headed donger for the bottom. Get that one started. Move your hose out of the way. This is the double-headed donger. Remember, this one is going to also have the stud for this brake line slash hose. And these, according to the service data, are also 32 pound-feet of torque, which I found kind of unusual that they're the same as the front, because I think these were like a 6mm bolt. The fronts were like an 8. Something like that. We'll just do what they tell us to do without any thought of our own. There's 32 going on the bottom. There it is. See if we can't get up in this joint. This direction would probably be the easiest. There it is, and then you put that nut on there. That nut! Just one of them. Gonna line her up. Guide me in, baby. There we go. I don't know what the torque value is on that. Snug. Snug it up. It's pretty tiny. That's like, I don't know. I can't see. Who am I kidding? Who am I kidding? It's that tight right there. Oh, yes. There it is. And that's it. Let's put the wheels on, put it back into unmaintenance mode, closed maintenance mode. I think I had an open maintenance, closed maintenance, something. We'll get it out of maintenance mode and go for a rip there. Get your brakes pumped up. We're going to go to maintenance closed. So make sure you pump your brakes first. Make sure your brake fluid's full and the wheels are tight and all that. We have the key on. Over there making noise. Alright. Successfully actuated. Alright, let's go make sure that the park and brake light is no longer flashing. Should be good now because it flashes while it's in maintenance mode. flashy flash. Let's flash out there in the corner. We can make sure that it works, which is right here. Let's make sure the car moves first. All right, everything's good there. Let's pull the parking brake on. Oh yeah, she's holding. All right, she just released. Perfect. Let's go for a rep. That's it, folks. Brought it back in, double checked the wheel torque, good to go. Send it down the road. Pretty easy job. Kind of some weird fasteners, you know, with inverted torques and Allens and sockets and, you know, all kinds of stuff. The downside is DIYing it is, you know, the parking brake mechanism. That kind of sucks. A lot of your cheaper, like OBD2 tools have the ability to do like oil life resets and brake pad resets or brake pad you know, service mode. So maybe your tool has that. Heard of guys using a battery to, you know, run the motor in and out, and that's all it is, just a DC battery. So, you know, use caution if you do it that way. Maybe watch some other ding dong on YouTube to see if they do it that way. I've heard of guys using, you know, a 9-volt or a little, you know, 12-volt battery, motorcycle battery. Run them in and out, whatever. If you got a skiing tool, that's the best way to do it. Don't just force it, because you'll break it. I've heard of guys taking the motors off, winding them back. I don't know, all different ways to skin them cats. I'm gonna go park this junker. You guys go in that comment section, park a comment down there. Let me see it. Insty, Facebook. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.